The palace of King Ahasuerus glittered with splendor beyond imagination, its halls alive with feasting, music, and wine. For 180 days the king displayed the glory of his empire, from India to Ethiopia, and when the days were ended, he held a great banquet for 7 days in the court of the palace gardens. Guests reclined on couches of gold and silver, wine flowed in goblets of pure gold, and the king reveled in his own magnificence. In the height of his merriment, desiring to flaunt not only his wealth but the beauty of his queen, Vashti, he commanded her to appear wearing her royal crown before the assembly. But Vashti, queen in her own right and a woman of dignity, refused to come. The refusal stung like an insult before the nobles, and the king's wrath was kindled. His advisers warned that such disobedience, left unpunished, would spread rebellion among wives throughout the empire. Thus Vashti was cast aside, stripped of her royal title, and a decree went forth that her crown would be given to another more worthy in the king's eyes. When the king's anger subsided, a search was ordered throughout the empire for the most beautiful young women to be gathered into the palace at Susa. They were entrusted to Haggai, keeper of the women, to undergo months of purification before being presented to the king. Among those taken was Hadassah, called Esther, a young Jewish woman orphaned in childhood and raised by her cousin Mordecai. Though her life had been marked by quietness and loss, her spirit was radiant with grace and humility. Esther did not clamor for adornments, but trusted in the guidance of Haggai, who quickly favored her and gave her the best provisions. When her turn came to go before the king, she asked for nothing more than what was appointed, and her simplicity shone brighter than jewels. The king loved Esther more than all others, placed the crown upon her head, and made her queen instead of Vashti. Yet Esther kept secret her Jewish identity, as Mordecai had counseled. Not long after, Mordecai, who lingered at the palace gates, uncovered a plot by 2 eunuchs to assassinate the king. He warned Esther, who revealed it to the king in Mordecai's name, and the conspirators were executed. The event was recorded in the Chronicles, though no honor was given to Mordecai at the time. Meanwhile, Haman the Agagite was exalted above all the nobles and commanded reverence throughout the realm. All bowed before him, save Mordecai, who would not kneel to one descended from the ancient enemies of Israel. Enraged, Haman plotted not only to destroy Mordecai, but to annihilate all Jews throughout the empire. Casting lots, he fixed the 13th day of the 12th month as the appointed time of destruction. With cunning words, he persuaded the king to approve the plan, offering 10,000 talents of silver for the treasury, and a decree went out sealed with the royal signet. All Jews, young and old, were to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. The city of Susa was bewildered, but the king and Haman sat down to drink. When Mordecai learned of the decree, he tore his clothes, clothed himself in sackcloth and ashes, and cried aloud in the city. Throughout the provinces, Jews mourned with fasting, weeping, and lamenting. Esther, in the palace, heard of Mordecai's distress and sent garments to clothe him, but he refused. Through messengers he revealed the decree and urged her to go before the king to plead for her people. Esther trembled, for none could enter the king's court unbidden without risking death, unless the king extended the golden scepter. It had been 30 days since she had been summoned. Yet Mordecai's reply pierced her hesitation. Do not think to escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. If you hold your peace at this time, deliverance shall arise from another place, but you and your father's house shall perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Strengthened by his words, Esther resolved, Go, gather the Jews of Susa, and fast for me 3 days. I and my maidens will fast likewise. Then I will go to the king. If I perish, I perish. On the 3rd day, Esther robed herself in royal garments and stood in the inner court. The king, seeing her, extended the golden scepter, granting her favor. She touched it and was asked her petition, with the promise of up to half his kingdom. Yet Esther withheld her request, inviting instead the king and Haman to a banquet she had prepared. At the banquet, the king pressed her again, but she only invited them to another banquet on the morrow, promising then to answer. Haman, exulted at being singled out by the queen, left the palace in pride, yet his joy turned to rage when he saw Mordecai unbowed at the gate. At home, his wife and friends counseled him to build a gallows 50 cubits high and hang Mordecai upon it, and Haman ordered it prepared. That night, the king could not sleep. He commanded the book of Chronicles to be read, and the story of Mordecai's loyalty was brought forth. What honor has been done for Mordecai? The king asked. None, they replied. At that moment Haman entered, intending to ask for Mordecai's death, but the king asked him first, What shall be done for the man the king delights to honor? Thinking of himself, Haman suggested royal robes, the king's horse, and public proclamation. Do so for Mordecai the Jew, said the king, and Haman was forced to robe his enemy and lead him through the city, proclaiming his honor. Humiliated, Haman returned home, and his counselors ominously foretold his downfall. Even as they spoke, he was hastened to Esther's second banquet. There the king asked again for Esther's petition. At last she spoke, "Let my life be given me at my request, and my people at my desire. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman." The king rose in fury and went into the garden, while Haman, desperate, fell upon Esther's couch to beg for his life. The king returned and, seeing him, cried, "Will he assault the queen also in my house?" At once Haman's face was covered, and Harbona, one of the eunuchs, pointed to the gallows Haman had built for Mordecai. "Hang him thereon," said the king, and Haman was hanged on his own gallows. His estate was given to Esther, and Mordecai was advanced to Haman's position, bearing the king's signet ring. Yet the decree of destruction still stood, for no edict sealed with the king's ring could be revoked. Esther fell at the king's feet, weeping, and begged him to save her people. The king again extended the scepter, and he commanded Mordecai to write another decree, granting the Jews the right to assemble and defend themselves against any who would attack them. Letters sealed with the king's ring were sent throughout the provinces, carried swiftly by couriers on royal horses. Wherever the decree arrived, the Jews rejoiced, and many from among the peoples of the land declared themselves Jews, for the fear of them had fallen upon all. When the 13th day of Adar came, the enemies of the Jews gathered, but the Jews stood united and struck down their attackers. 75,000 enemies perished throughout the provinces, and in Susa alone 500 fell, including the 10 sons of Haman. At Esther's request, the Jews of Susa were allowed another day to complete their defense, and another 300 were slain. Yet in all these battles, the Jews did not lay hands on the spoil, proving their fight was for survival, not greed. When the days of struggle were ended, sorrow turned into gladness. The Jews feasted, exchanged gifts, and celebrated their deliverance. Mordecai recorded these events and sent letters establishing the 14th and 15th days of Adar as annual days of feasting and joy, to be called Purim, after the Purim or lots that Haman had cast to destroy them. Esther confirmed the decree with royal authority, and thus Purim was set as a perpetual memorial. Mordecai grew great in the kingdom, second only to the king, and he sought the welfare of his people, speaking peace to all. Esther's name was remembered with reverence, for she had risked her life to intercede for her people and had delivered them from annihilation. Her story lived on beyond the palaces of Persia, echoing in every generation. Each year, as the festival of Purim returned, the people lit their lamps, read the scroll of Esther, and rejoiced in the triumph of light over darkness. Children laughed and played, elders recounted the tale, and the courage of the orphan who became queen shone as a crown upon the memory of Israel. Esther's legacy endured not only in celebration but in the hearts of all who learned that even in exile, even under the shadow of death, faith and courage could overturn the darkest decrees. Version style you were looking for?